Well, so typical family, typical kids running around. Like, is it crazy
Absolutely.
having 2 kids?
Yeah.
Like anybody else?
Yeah.
Well, tell me what like.
With the little electronics, it makes it easy because he'll kind of go one way and she can go another, but it just all depends.
They fight nonstop.
They pick on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Or I guess he picks on her and then it goes back.
Yeah. Do you tell them much about what's going on? Like, what have you told them?
She's clueless.
She doesn't know. She's too young.
She says she'll fall down and say, "Oh, I fell down like Daddy,"
Yeah.
because she sees me crash a lot.
Chase knows. We sat down and we told him after probably a month after the diagnosis, we went and saw a child therapist, got some tips, pointers. When do we tell him? How do we tell him? What do we say? And so he knows Daddy has ALS. And he knows that it's uncurable. He knows that he's never going to be better tomorrow than he is today. But he doesn't know the nitty gritty. He doesn't know, what's could possibly come. Mm-hmm. But Summer just dances around in her underwear. She's a blessing. She can make us all laugh after a bad day. Like, she has no clue.
That's awesome. So, when was the diagnosis?
April 14th.
Of this year?
Mm-hmm. 2016.
So when did you notice like a change, like something was going on before you?
About July of last year, I noticed odd things in my legs intermittently late at night. For some reason, it was always at night. And then I guess they kept coming on a little stronger, and then I started getting a lot of the fasciculations in my arms, and we were like, something's weird. And then
is that the shaking?
Yeah, the twitching, all the muscles jumping. And then it just kept getting a little more here and there. Then I guess at about September, after we bought the ski boat, we were out wakeboarding at the lake house, and things just weren't the same. I just, like, my left arm was always tight, and I'm like, I can't reach over here, so it was weird.
He couldn't land his jumps.
Like, my legs would just give out every time we landed, or every time I landed, and just, I knew something wasn't right.
I told him.
I'm like, I know I'm getting a little old, but not that bad. So then we finally went to the doctor, and then just, what was it? We did the...
It was October 1st that we went to a neurosurgeon because they said that he might have had some mild stenosis in his back. The MRI kind of showed some mild stenosis. They said maybe there's a pinched nerve. And on October 1st, we went to the neurosurgeon, and he looked at the results, and he said, no, this is nothing surgical. This is nothing that I can look at. He said, you need to go to a neurologist and have things like MS and ALS ruled out. So that was the first time we heard ALS, and I'm like, what is that? What is that? So I said, of course, we get in the car and I research it, and thought, there's no way. There's no way. I told him, stay off the internet. Don't even go look it up. Don't do it.
It's hard not to,
It is.
It's because it's there. It's like so
Yeah.
easy. So then, has it been like a quick progression to you?
To me, yeah. I mean, from being able to do anything I wanted to pretty much do in September to barely being able to even walk now, it's a real big change.
In his hands.
And the biggest frustration for you?
Walking. Because, I can get around. I can still move. The frustration is the walking. The legs are just, the spasticity in my legs are just so stiff. The faster I try to do something, the harder my legs just lock up. It just gets real bad. And that's what causes me to fall a lot, is I'll be trying to do something, I feel like I'm falling, and then I'll go to try to catch myself, then I just lock up and just crash.
Yeah, I can see where that would be.
Yeah.
Just frustrating.
It's one of the big fears of it, because you fall and get hurt.
They say a lot of people die with ALS from a fall, from a head trauma, from falling and hitting your head, because with ALS, he doesn't have any strength in his muscles in his arms or his hands. So when he falls, a normal person can put their arms out and catch themselves, and he can't catch himself. It's just a immediate to the ground. There's no stopping it. There's no catching, preparing anything for the fall.
Well, it was interesting. You were listening to us talk to your son, and he was talking about some of the things that he liked to do, and one of the things was, like watch football, and you go to football games, or you know, and he kept mentioning how he likes doing things with you. Listening to something like that, I don't know, does that...
Kills me.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, it's, I'm trying to make myself understand what that's like as a parent with a child. I guess, what are some of your thoughts? Some of the, just when you're interacting with your kids, you know, as parents, we think, wow, you know, I remember when I was this young, or like some of the thoughts that go through your mind when you're hanging out with your son and your daughter.
Just, at least I'm still here to, you know, at least see them do what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard because I never sat down when I came home. I mean, I didn't get to bed till midnight. I was always doing something, playing with a toy, always doing something, cars, RC cars, boats, you know, playing with something, golf cart, always something, and never stop. And, you know, I've watched more TV in the last probably 3 months than I have in my whole life. Never sat down and watched TV hardly, except for the football games with him and stuff. But it's tricky. It's tricky. It's hard watching everybody do what you used to do and not being able to do it anymore.
Sitting on the sidelines.
So let's talk about all of the help that comes, especially with the Ice Bucket Challenge. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
All toward research.
Amazing.
And I know that we've had at least 2 major breakthroughs that I know of that, you know, just researching.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that people have donated by doing something fun, that's gotta be so, how does that, exciting, just rejuvenating, I don't know.
To me, and the way it is now, it's awesome to know. Because you don't really understand it. It was just a trend, you know, 2 years ago when everybody did it. And you didn't really understand what you're doing, just other than the fact you got nominated and did it. So, understanding where it's all coming from, it's a blessing.
We did it. We did it 2 years ago. We donated, and I looked it up to see what it was, but it's hard to understand. You can't wrap your head around it until you're affected by it. Until you live with somebody or know somebody who's gone through it, it's a really hard disease to understand.
And when you did the challenge in 2014, there was, like, it wasn't part of your life.
No,
You just,
not at all. We had no clue. Yeah, it's one of those things you think, oh, that'll never be me, you know?
So I'm curious, and this may be a dumb question, but I'm curious, knowing now what you knew then, were you happy about donating? Was it more of a conscious thing when you were donating at the time? Well, like, do you wish you had donated more? I mean, like, looking back on when you did the Ice Bucket Challenge, was there anything you would have done differently, or are you happy that you did it?
So happy we did it. So happy we donated. And I just hope that the trend fires off again this year. You know, it became viral in 2014. Now it might take a jump start, but they say that there's so much. If there's ever a time to have ALS, it's 2016, because there's so much in the pipelines, in the trials, things that are breakthroughs that are happening, things that are coming our way, and it's all because of this Ice Bucket Challenge. It's all because of the funds raised. But that was in 2014, so it took 2 years really for these funds to make a difference, you know, but now it's just got to keep going. It's got to just stay strong, you know?
Yeah. And so for somebody who's like, oh yeah, I remember the Ice Bucket Challenge, would you encourage them to do it? What do you say to those people who are watching? What do you say?
Please do, because I mean, you never know. I mean, it's like I would have never thought I'd be in these shoes.
Yeah.
Never in a million years.
You don't know. You just don't know. And for everything that's out there that has come that way, there's still so much more that needs to be done. I mean, things are in trials, and God, it takes so much to run a trial. It is expensive. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. And we're in a trial right now, and it's a phase 1. It's a phase 1. It's still got to go to a phase 2 and a phase 3. You know, the FDA approvals are just 10 years. You're looking at 10 years. So to get things go through faster, the funding has to be there. It's all about the funding. It's crazy.
Perfect. We're done.
Yeah? Okay.
Just hang out there for a little bit.
Okay.
Did I tell you? I told you.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
That's fine. a big monster.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said we can't get up.
No, yeah, just keep
What-
talking for a couple minutes.
Was your nervousness, and he's gonna still take pictures of us,
Okay.
you know, but was your nervousness more about the interview itself, or was it just talking about this?
I didn't know then what you were going to ask, and I was scared. To try and prepare myself for answers. That's
Is it harder to talk, is it hard to talk about? Like, just the whole topic? Like, do you talk about it a lot with your extended family, or?
Oh, it's like
Yeah.
all we talk about right now.
yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, they're always asking, are you any better, you know, for hopes, you know, yeah, any better today?
There's
'Cause
so
in
many.
in the very beginning, I'd go through days where, like, a week later, you know, I'd be like, wow, I can walk down these stairs today. And then next thing you know, I'm holding on to something to go back down it again.
Yeah.
Now, it's not even a question. There's no going up or down them, you know, without major help. But,
We're fortunate too. We have such a huge support group. We have so many people
That's great.
around us and just wanting to help. And Chad's been contacted by high school friends, lifelong friends, people he hasn't seen in 10 years. We have this GoFundMe, and people are just, I can't believe the generosity.
unreal.
It's unreal. It's
People
unreal.
coming over to help. My brother's done a million things for me. I mean,
He's got friends
all
coming
the
over and
time.
pumping out the septic tank. I mean, nobody wants to get in anybody's poop hole, right?
no one wants to get in there and fix the pump.
No.
They're coming over and doing it.
And they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it. It's really cool. It's people are, yeah.
Everybody we know has stepped up.
That means they love you.
Nope,
Yeah.
it does.
I mean, you've had an impact on people's lives. That's awesome.
And I think
So-
it's good to see too for him. I think it makes him feel good. You know.
Shoot.
It's hard. I never really asked for help unless I couldn't do it by myself. So, you know, it's it's different. You know, I've done a lot of falling, trying to do things I shouldn't do, but at the same time, you know, it's hard to give it up. It's
He
hard.
pushes himself probably more than anybody else I know that has this. I mean, he said to me, he said most people would be couchbound right now, but he is still out there. He's going to our company picnic on Sunday. He's going to the lake house, and he can't have the fun that he used to have at the lake house. He can't do the things he used to. But if
I
two of
kinda-
us get him in the boat, he can drive the boat. Once he's in the driver's seat, he can drive it. He'll spend all day long circling that lake, pulling the kids on the tubes.
That's
You know,
awesome.
it is.
Yeah,
It's
getting
awesome.
in the boat and out of the boat's funny. They just kind of throw me in, and when I go to get out, I just say, all right, clear out, and I just fall over the edge and hit the water.
A lot of people would have given up by now, though. They would have, and he pushes himself really hard. So that's cool. It's an inspiration to watch.
And so I understand I'm making sure I understand the time frame. It was July when you noticed of last year something.
Yeah, like some reason it was always late at night. Like, you know, once it was dark, every blue moon, my legs would get stiff and I'd walk like a robot.
He couldn't
And
put the cap
then-
back on the toothpaste.
Well, that was one of the first things I noticed. I went
Fine
to go
motor
brush
skills.
my teeth one morning, and it's just like I had no pressure to unscrew the cap. And I'm like, oh, that's not right. But then it would go away by noon. It'd be perfectly fine. I'm at work, you know, everything's normal. And then late at night, it started kind of fading away again. Well, then early in the morning, it'd be the same. Well, of course, I just switch hands and use my right. A typical guy. I don't go to the doctor for months, and then
Or just doesn't brush his teeth.
but finally I said something's not right. You know, we're sitting there as I'm in there on the computer. My wife's like, "Man, all your muscles are just jumping and going crazy." I mean, I'm like, they've been doing it for a while. They're not stopping. You know, and then it's just one thing after another, and finally we're like, okay, we got to do something.
Do you mind us taking a look
Yeah.
at your arm now? I don't know if Travis, I don't know if you can see
I
that.
want to get out of the shadow. Can you see it all through here?
And so where do you feel that? Is it just in that arm?
Oh, it goes
It
all the
starts
way up
here.
through here and then
Both
back
sides.
down this side over here.
Occasionally his thighs will twitch.
Yeah, like in the mornings,
Not
I
bad,
can
though.
feel it in my thighs and in my calves, and then just all the pins.
They say that that's a sign of the neurons. So, you know, the upper neurons and the lower neurons. With ALS, it starts in the brain, and the upper motor neurons are what goes from the brain to your muscle or your spinal cord. The lower motor neurons are what goes from your spinal cord out to your muscles. So the neurons are screaming, "Help me, help me." They're firing warning symbols because they're dying. Then that's what is wasting the muscles away. That's ultimately.
Like if I put my foot down, it'll just like if I'm sitting on that chair and I put my foot down in the morning after putting my shoes on, my foot just starts bouncing, or my whole leg just starts bouncing, and I can't stop it unless I physically just pick it up.
They say that ultimately this twitching is you don't really want it to go away, because when it does, it means the muscle's done. You know,
Yeah.
so.
It's like my hands, they're like super stiff. You can't open them. It's like they don't, you know, it's as fast as they move.
You
Can't
lift
really
summer.
write with it. I can't pick up, you know, the 3-year-old anymore.
It's crazy.
It all just slowly came on, because I noticed when I'd pick her up from daycare, I'm like, she's not getting that much heavier, but she's getting harder to put in the car seat. I'm like,
She's a big girl.
you
I
know,
don't know.
the doctor would be like, well, you know, she's 35 pounds. I'm like, I could throw her over my head, you know, 6 months ago, but not now.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
You good, Joy?
Okay. I first of all, everybody knows about the Ice Bucket Challenge. Everybody did it a couple of years ago. It was so popular, millions of dollars raised. And there were a couple of big discoveries in the past year. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really exciting to have such a huge influx of funds going to ALS research. And one of the major things in our field, in the genetics field, that happened is that the funds allowed a very large study to take place, which led to the discovery of a new gene for ALS called NEC1. And it's really like with every genetic discovery that it kind of tells us a little bit more about the disease mechanisms that underlie ALS. In this specific case, NEC1, it's a protein that helps form the shape of brain cells, and it also is involved potentially in the transport of proteins within cells. So we're just hoping that with this new discovery, we learn a little bit more about what goes wrong in patients with ALS.
And by,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's way too
Can
much.
you move her?
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
do you want me to move it higher toward her mouth?
Yes.
Can
Maybe
you move it
onto
up even-
onto the other side?
Onto the other
Yeah,
side?
That's where she's talking.
Okay. Do you want to, does that mean we have to start over? Or?
Okay.
That
Yeah,
was
right.
fine.
And this thing is like
Question.
another side. It just looks weird, no? This is all
You won't
good.
even notice that.
I'm happy
Okay.
to do it again.
Okay.
More slowly and whatever. I probably always say, can you
I
see
don't
that
even know the
slow?
mic in the shot. I don't even know that the mic's in
Can
the
you
shot.
can you do the
No.
Yes.
yeah, getting rid of
Yeah,
it?
we'll-
Okay, I'm going to move it up right here.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to loop it. There we go. Okay?
Whatever. Just say what you want to do.
Do you want it? I mean,
It's
we,
up to you.
okay, we'll just do it over real quick. It won't take long. We didn't
Okay.
get started very far. So we can start over.
Sure.
That's totally fine. So,
And I
um,
mean, if I now completely screw up, then just go back to the old version.
yeah,
please.
really.
There you go.
I'm counting on you, right?
The guy. The guy.
And this
Okay.
won't be long at all.
Okay.
So, Dr. Rosa, thank you for joining us. Give us your full name.
It's Dr. Rosa Rademakers, and I'm a neurogeneticist here at the Mayo Clinic.
And so, what does that mean that you specialize in here?
It means that our laboratory tries to find genes that are involved in a range of neurodegenerative diseases such as ALS.
Okay, and talking about ALS, and we're focusing on the research, what has been found, what promising new things to fight this disease are being studied. And everybody knows about the Ice Bucket Challenge. It was very popular in 2014. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars were raised. And there were some major discoveries in the past year. Talk to us about some of those.
Right, yeah, it was really exciting to see that there's so much extra funds going to ALS research. So one of the things that we were able to do is that money was being put towards a great effort to analyze large number of familial patients with ALS to try and find novel genes. And we were able to find a new gene called NEC1, which is a new gene that's, oh gosh, see, this is what happens when you do it the second time.
That's okay.
Because I don't want to, so the reason I stopped is I don't want to sound like we found it, like I was part of that study, but I wasn't leading that study. It's like
a national study.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not the leader of this national study either. I mean, Mayo Clinic was like one of 80 contributing centers, you know, like, so I don't want
Okay.
people to see this and think that it was me, that I claimed that it was me
Gotcha.
finally, right? So,
Gotcha.
I'll
So-
just recap a little bit and
Okay.
try to start, right? Is that
Yes,
okay?
Perfectly fine.
Well, anyways, just so,
So it was NEC1, and so once this new gene was found, what does that mean? What did it show? What does it do?
right, so it's with every new gene discovery, it tells us a little bit more about what it is that goes wrong in patients with ALS. And in this particular gene, NEC1, it's been shown to help the neuron have their shape, and it also is involved in the protein of, the transport of protein within cells. It actually has a lot of different functions, and mutations make the protein product go away. But we do not really know which function it is that's important that these people no longer have. So there's still a lot of research that needs to be done now that we've identified this new gene.
But how big is the fact that this gene was found? Is it a huge deal?
This is a gene that probably accounts for about 3% of patients with ALS. Now, it may not sound a lot, but that's still a significant number of patients. As you may know, the gene we found here at Mayo Clinic about 5 years ago is really the most common genetic cause of ALS, which explains about 30% of patients with familial ALS, and also about 5% of patients with sporadic ALS. So obviously, when that gene was found and the therapies that are being developed to try and tackle that gene defect, it obviously affects a larger number of patients. But still, like every time we find a gene, no matter how few patients it directly affects, it really still tells us a lot about the disease in general.
And very quickly, the gene that was found 5 years ago by Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville, what percentage of people are affected by that, and what has been able to come of finding that gene?
Right, so the gene that was found 5 years ago is called a repeat expansion in the chromosome 9 gene C9orf72, and it really explains a third of all the familial patients with ALS and about 5% of patients who do not have a family history of ALS, so-called sporadic patients. And it was really a very important finding, first of all, because there were so many individuals, or many patients that are affected by this specific mutation, but it also kind of opened a whole new field of how could a repeat expansion, which is a very unusual type of mutation, how could it cause ALS? So what has happened in 5 years, actually quite a lot, including so what has happened in 5 years, actually quite a lot. Some of the money that was raised by the Ice Bucket Challenge has been used to generate cellular models, animal models, and we are even now at the point where people are talking about so-called antisense therapies, where they're using small pieces of RNA to attack the harmful forms of the gene that are being generated in this disease, and they're trying to eliminate it, and in doing so try to find a therapy for these patients. And this is actually a therapy that's now been developed for several forms of ALS, and something that we're hoping that could go into clinical trials in the next several years.
And it sounds like we're right on the edge of finding something that can help fight it.
Yes, although I mean, it's still, as with all research, it works in cellular models and animal models. It's still a long way until we have proof that this will actually be something that will help patients, but we're very hopeful, and we've definitely made great progress, in part through funding that came in through the Ice Bucket Challenge, and also just because technologies are changing very rapidly. We have very good new genomic technologies that help us identify these genes. There's just all sorts of new advances that really help us to now tackle these problems that we couldn't do several years ago. So it's a very exciting time in science.
And I was going to say, when the Ice Bucket Challenge was at its height and you knew that the research was going to be funded by so much money, that surely that had to make you excited as well.
Absolutely, yes. And it really has made a great impact, I think, on the ALS research community as a whole. And one thing that also the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge did, and this is through the ALS Association, the National ALS Association, is they funded a lot of young researchers, so young postdoctoral fellows, young clinicians, and really trying to bring in these new young people into the field of ALS is very important, because these are the people that are going to do the work in the future, and to try and get them engaged into ALS research is very important. So this is something I think that also has strengthened our fields and is really good for the future.
So for people who are listening to what you're saying and about all of the advancements that were made because of the money that came in from the Ice Bucket Challenge, and they're thinking, I wonder if I should still give, what do you say?
I would say yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a long way to get from the discoveries we make in the lab all the way to clinical trials. And the other thing we have to think about is the development of biomarkers, for example. These are small molecules that can help identify individuals who are at risk of developing the disease, even before they have any symptoms. Or it will be able to allow us to say who will have a fast disease progression or slow disease progression. These are very important things that we're still working on. So I would say to these people, yes, please continue to give. It's very important. Continue to raise awareness of the disease by talking to your colleagues and friends about it. And yeah, it will still be very important to reach our goal. It looks like it doesn't look very fancy, right? It's all the same.
But that's okay, and that's, I mean, the fact is that there's more important work that's going on here. So we can start at the end and walk this way.
Yeah.
That's okay. See, it may not be fascinating to you, but to people who
Never do
know and they're thinking, oh my gosh, like
Let me hide this
tomorrow. So this is where your research happens.
Absolutely.
Where are we? We're in Mayo Clinic in the research lab.
We're in the Bertzel building of the Mayo Clinic, second floor, and this is where we've been doing a lot of research over the last 10 years.
Okay, show us
And,
around.
yeah, this is it's actually divided over multiple laboratories, and this part here is where we do most of our genetic studies. So we're trying to find the genes, processing DNA samples from patients. This could be brain tissue, it could be blood samples that people have given, and then we try to extract the DNA so that we can try and find genes. But we also have another part of the lab where we do more for what I call functional studies. So we make cellular models. We're trying to understand what it is that these genes are doing, and that's what's happening here. We also do these are stains from mouse brains, where we're trying to see whether a certain protein is actually made by the brain, and if there's any changes in the diseases. Here we have more postdoctoral fellows and other students that work, and we work on a lot of different aspects of the disease. Yeah.
Okay.